Hello and welcome to the Chicago School of Professional Psychology's weekly wellness break. Self-care is always important for maintaining our health and wellness and can be a way to connect with your community. During these unprecedented times, self-care is more important than ever. To that end, our outstanding faculty are sharing their expertise with you via these weekly wellness breaks outside of the classroom. Today, we have Dr. Terry Davis from our Los Angeles, California campus. Dr. Davis is an assistant professor in the clinical psychology program and a licensed psychologist who treats a variety of mental health concerns, including anxiety, PTSD, depression, substance abuse, and sexual trauma. Please join us while Dr. Davis presents Quarantineville, a time of self-discovery and reset.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Greetings from Los Angeles. I named this talk Quarantineville, or it should have been probably called Quarantine Palooza, because we are all kind of in the same boat of having to adjust to what seems to be not only a new normal, but a way for us to understand how to manage ourselves in very unpredictable times. So thank you so much for allowing me to have this time with you. I wanted to take a few minutes to discuss a bit about some of the things that you may see in your own clients, that I see in mine, that you may be experiencing during quarantine. And so my first slide here and the successive slides will discuss kind of what I've come to understand about how patients are managing this. And again, these may also be things that you are challenged with yourself. And so um, please, more than welcome to follow me here. So what I've understood about the quarantine through, to be frank, my own experience, those of family members and patients, is quarantine has offered a very mixed emotional states during day to day. And I wouldn't necessarily say that they are necessarily clinically significant states, but definitely something very different. I have a pretty thriving practice in Los Angeles that you would not believe has absolutely blossomed during this time. Patients who I had actually discharged and terminated were doing well, have come back with more symptoms, and then just folks who have just really had a hard time managing these things. And so this first slide here talks about mixed emotions. The mixed emotions that you would find in a day-to-day situation. I think what the quarantine has probably offered for most people, and this is just anecdotal evidence, the scientific evidence that may be burgeoning from COVID has not yet been published. So this is anecdotal evidence here. That the first part of the quarantine, I think, brought a lot of anxiety, sleep issues, a lot of unpredictability, and just shock. So many patients were just dealing with the physiological responses of anxiety, depression, just being not sure how day-to-day is going to go. And of course, that included financial worries. And what I've told people is, for those who may not be necessarily dealing with financial worries, those are not the only worries that people have. That is what's been talked about a lot in media. But what we're not talking about as much are these things. So just to kind of go around the circle, general confusion. So not really the disorientation that you would find in someone with a thought disorder, but just a general disorientation of just difficulty keeping track of kind of what day it is. Your normal routine is off. And so just not what now is not really a normal routine, and then moving on to the fact that it's not a normal routine, being quite anxious about that, quite anxious of not only not knowing kind of what's going on in the world, but not being quite sure what's going on with you emotionally. So anxiety, sadness, sleep issues, having an irritation with yourself, with people, with getting emails. So work for many people is very much continuing. And there's been times where the emails seem like they're coming faster as life is slowing down. So that is also bringing about a feeling of being overwhelmed, being drained, um, kind of losing any shred of sanity that you might have had before quarantine, which just really just suggests that it's very difficult to live in a time of ambiguity, especially when we're talking about COVID-19, which is not still well understood. So I think that allows for people to be very anxious, where we have kind of a disconnect, I think, among most about how serious this is. People really not knowing how to adjust to how serious they should take it. And I think now in the later months, people's anxiety might be leveling off a little bit, but still in the mode of trying to understand what next steps are. Okay, next slide. And so, with having the emotional states here, what I've what I've take this time to, yes, accept the anxiety and ambiguity, the sleep issues that may come, some of the disorientation, low motivation, having a difficult time finding your rhythm. I think people spend a lot of time trying to find their rhythm. And I believe at the beginning of the pandemic, it was just very hard to do that. And now that we're in our fourth month, people now may be coming to a time where they've got a rhythm that they're still not quite comfortable with, but might be coming to being able to plan what pandemic could potentially look like for them. So I just have a few things that I want to offer. So a time of reset and self-reflection. Some recommendations that I've been giving to students, recommendations that I've been getting to patients and just friends alike, is we're in a place now where the pace of life is just slowing down. And this talk is really about taking advantage of the parts of your life that are just slowing down. Work may or may not be one of them, but taking time to slow down, which means also giving yourself some flexibility in your day. And that goes for the type A and type B folks. Type B may do a better job. The type A's, usually personality, usually have a harder time um, not having days that are just as structured. But quarantine just begs you to self forgive. And so setting small, reasonable goals by making lists of duties, which also then calls for you making reasonable lists that you actually think and believe and have evidence that you can get done. Because we have a slower pace, um, keeping motivated is going to be very important, and to measure your motivation against what can you really get done, which then makes the fourth bullet point even more important: prioritizing your needs, and that includes work related needs. Balance is probably going to be just as important now than ever before, especially if you find that you're experiencing quite a bit of anxiety or just restlessness, a change in your circadian rhythm. So, taking naps during the day, which I personally enjoy, but also being aware of what your sleep patterns are doing. And this also means knowing when your body needs a reset. Everyone has physiological ways that your body lets you know that you need a break. And I've actually suggested that people take more breaks during the day. And you're probably thinking, why would I take more breaks when I can barely hold on to my motivation? Well, this is a recommendation that I would make even in our natural state of the world, is people sometimes work past their ability to think as cognitively as they normally would under other conditions. So some people may work better during the day, during the afternoon, in the evening hours. And so quarantine may give people an opportunity to really know just how much about your work do you know? How much do you know about your body, your stamina? And so that sometimes can be very difficult to distinguish if you're already kind of losing your motivation during the day, just because our days are very different. So even if it's needing a break, and a break could just be coffee, walking your pet, going outside, doing stretches, all the things that we would recommend to folks who are sitting at a desk job for 8 hours and just needing a little bit of a break. So I'm certainly encouraging that. A term that I thought that I made up, Zoom fatigue, I guess has been shared. I guess I've been plagiarizing. That Zoom fatigue is a very, very real thing. So, of course, most of our business affairs and work affairs have now turned into remote Zoom meetings or whatever other platform that you use to communicate. But one thing I've heard from patients quite a bit is that, friends at this time, family really want to connect. And so having work fatigue with Zoom, but then also having friends who want to connect every evening. At some point, I think it can be very, very fun and very relaxing and helpful to connect. I also think that having a lot of interaction in this medium can be very exhausting. So I've really suggested that people really be a bit choosy for Zoom meetings that are not extremely necessary. And just to be honest, that you need time for yourself outside of work Zoom meetings or other mediums. So that being very important. Next slide.
Dr. Davis, I think you went on mute.
Sorry about that. Great. Thank you. Um, so just a few recommendations here. Some of these are going to be a bit redundant, but just a parting shot. Taking frequent breaks during the day is very critical. Taking time to think through future plans and goals. Some of you have, I'm hoping, will consider using quarantine a time to reset and self-reflect. The good part about this is that it has slowed everything down, which gives us a lot of time on one end to ruminate and worry more, or to think critically, more metacognitive about things that you've wanted to do and have just not had the time to do them. And so that means taking time, journaling, to work through personal struggles just through deep reflection. For some, that's journaling. For some, that's listening to music. I've personally gotten into audiobooks. Oh, it's just been amazing. Meditation, guided imagery, long walks. These are great ways to really dig deep into yourself because you may very possibly have the time to do it. Taking time to reset your life direction, and that includes your relationships. So, taking a deep dive, not only just in yourself, but in directions that you've always wanted to take, whether that's working something out with a family member, a friend, having discussions that have been difficult to have, taking this time to really take a deep dive in things that have just been difficult. Taking time to do nothing. That's probably my favorite. Taking time to just relax, putting longer breaks in your schedule, scheduling days where you simply just be. Something that our regular lives made it more difficult. And then lastly, taking time to develop hobbies, things you've wanted to explore. And I'm sorry, travel does not include that. As you probably have realized, Europe doesn't want us to come there. So we have to find other things to do, possibly in the States or just in your own home or around your home. Um, and so I've taken up guitar. I've wanted to play acoustic guitar forever. And I just took it up and I'm terrible, but it's a great experience. Um, I've taken up pottery. I'm not that great, but some of my plants have survived. So taking up hobbies, this is part of the reset. And then when we come out of this, then you would have practiced for a while ways to self soothe. And so this talk was really meant for you to take a few minutes to think about some of the things that you've wanted to do and taking this time to manage mixed emotions with things that may definitely be beneficial, especially because our times are very unpredictable. And especially with some of the cultural issues that we have, it's been very overwhelming. And it's been difficult for people to talk about difficult issues. And so I've actually recommended that people not rush into trying to resolve issues that they're new to, but just to think it through first, reading on things, understanding things before you have these sensitive discussions with others. And so I hope very much that you found that helpful. Please do take care of yourself. Use the time to reflect and reset. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us today for the Chicago School of Professional Psychology Weekly Wellness Break, and thank you to Dr. Davis for sharing your expertise. You will be able to find today's Wellness Break on YouTube and all of the Chicago School of Professional Psychology's social media sites. Please share with friends, family, and those in your social network who may benefit from these resources. Stay well and know we are here to support you.